My daughter looked me in the eye and said, "You'd make everyone's life easier by disappearing. I'm feelin' Wilson," and I just made her wish come true. What Emily didn't know, when she humiliated me at my granddaughter's birthday party, is that I've been writing the checks that keep her perfect life running. The house payments, the private school tuition, her husband's failing tech company, all of it funded by the embarrassing mechanic she wanted gone. For 3 years, I've been the anonymous investor keeping Bradley's business alive, 40% owner of a company worth $12 million. And after what she said to me in front of 40 family members, I decided it was time for some brutal honesty. I didn't yell. I didn't make a scene. I just withdrew $4.2 million with a single phone call. You know what's funny about disappearing? Sometimes when you vanish, you take everything with you. I'm sharing this story because I know some of you have family who've forgotten where their blessings come from. Hit that subscribe button if you want to hear how this ends, and drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from. Trust me, you won't believe what happened next. But first, let me tell you how a simple birthday party became the most expensive conversation of my daughter's life. You have to understand something about Emily. She wasn't always like this. When her mother Sarah died 8 years ago, Emily was still calling me Daddy. Still bringing Sophie over every Sunday for pancakes. Still proud to tell people her father owned Wilson's Auto Repair on Sheridan Boulevard. That changed the day she met Bradley Roberts. Bradley comes from old Denver money. His father owns 3 car dealerships and a country club membership that costs more than most people make in a year. When Emily started dating him, I watched my daughter slowly disappear. First, it was small things. She'd correct my grammar when I spoke to Sophie. "It's Sophie and I, Dad, not me and Sophie." She'd wince when I showed up in my work clothes to pick up my granddaughter. Then came their engagement party in 2022. I'll never forget walking into that Cherry Hills Country Club ballroom wearing my best suit, the same one I'd worn to Sarah's funeral. Emily took one look at me and whispered, "Dad, maybe you should sit at the back table." The back table. With the caterers. But I told myself it was wedding stress. New relationship nerves. She'd come around. Their wedding cost $680,000. I know because I paid for it. Emily asked me for help 6 months before the ceremony. Said Bradley's family was contributing, but they needed more for the venue she wanted. She cried when she asked. Real tears. Said it was her dream wedding and she couldn't bear to scale it down. So I liquidated some investments. Transferred the money quietly. Asked for nothing in return except to walk her down the aisle. 2 weeks before the wedding, she called me. "Dad, we need to talk about the guest list." Apparently, Bradley's family had concerns about the optics of having too many, how did she put it, working-class relatives at such an elegant venue. "You'll still walk me down the aisle," she said quickly. "But maybe you could leave right after the ceremony, before the reception?" I walked my daughter down that aisle, handed her off to Bradley, kissed her cheek, and left. I watched my only child's wedding reception from the parking lot, sitting in my 2019 Ford F-150, listening to the music through the country club's windows. That should have been my wake-up call. But then Sophie was born, my granddaughter. 5 years old now, with Sarah's eyes and Emily's stubborn chin. Every time I started to pull away, Emily would send me a photo of Sophie asking for Grandpa Jimmy, so I stayed close. Quietly helped with the mortgage payments when Bradley's first startup failed. Bought Sophie that $15,000 playground set for their backyard. Fixed Emily's Mercedes every time it needed work. Never charged her a dime. And every time, the respect grew a little thinner. Last month, Emily needed me to babysit Sophie while she and Bradley attended some business dinner. I showed up at their house in Highlands Ranch, the $840,000 house I'd helped them buy, and Emily met me at the door. "Dad, you can't park that truck in our driveway tonight. The neighbors will see." My truck. The same truck I'd driven to the hospital when Sophie was born. The truck Sophie loved riding in because it was big like Grandpa. "Where should I park?" I asked. "Around the corner, on the street." I parked around the corner, watched my granddaughter for 6 hours, left before Emily got home so she wouldn't have to see my truck again. But I was about to learn that even invisible wasn't good enough anymore. The phone call came on a Tuesday morning in September. "Dad, we have a problem." Emily's voice had that edge it gets when she's about to ask for something she knows she shouldn't. I was under the hood of a 2018 Camry, but I put down my wrench. "What's wrong?" "It's Bradley's company, TechFlow Solutions. They're having some funding issues." I knew about TechFlow. Bradley had started it 3 years ago with 2 MIT friends, some kind of software that helps restaurants manage their supply chains. Emily was always posting about their disruptive technology on Facebook. What kind of funding issues? They need bridge financing, $2 million, just to get through the next quarter until their Series B closes. $2 million. Said like it was $20 for gas. Emily, I don't have that kind of money lying around. She laughed, not a happy laugh. Dad, I know you do well with the garage, but I'm not asking you to fund it. Bradley's family has investors lined up. Real investors. I need you to not embarrass us during the process. What does that mean? The lead investor wants to meet the whole family. Due diligence. Making sure Bradley comes from solid people. His words, not mine. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. And I told them you were consulting in the automotive industry. Consulting, like I wore a suit and carried a briefcase instead of crawling under cars with grease on my hands. Emily, Dad, please. This is Bradley's shot. Our shot. If this falls through, we lose everything. The house, Sophie's private school, everything we've built. Everything we've built. Like I hadn't been the one building it, one check at a time for 5 years. What do you need me to do? Just be normal. When you meet them, don't mention the garage. Don't tell any of your stories about fixing cars. Just be quiet. After I hung up, I sat in my office for 20 minutes, staring at the calendar. Sophie's birthday was coming up in 2 weeks. Her party at the country club that Emily had already planned, already paid for with money I'd quietly transferred to her account the week before. I thought about what I stood to lose if I kept playing along with this game. My relationship with Sophie, for one. Emily controlled that completely. If I didn't toe the line, if I embarrassed them, how long before my granddaughter stopped asking when Grandpa Jimmy was coming over? My sense of self-worth, which was already hanging by a thread. How long could I keep pretending to be someone I wasn't? How long before I started believing their version of me? The embarrassment, the liability, the man who should park around the corner. But there was something else, something Emily didn't know. I walked to my desk and pulled out the bottom drawer. Inside was a manila folder I hadn't opened in months. Investment documents, bank statements, legal papers that told a very different story about Phelan Wilson than the one my daughter had been telling her fancy friends. 20 years ago, when Sarah got sick, I started thinking about the future differently. Started putting money aside, not in savings accounts or CDs, but in investments. Tech stocks mostly, back when nobody thought a mechanic would understand companies like Google or Amazon. I was wrong about a lot of things. Lost money on plenty of bad bets, but I was right about enough of them. The Bank of America statement on top of the stack showed a balance of $3.2 million. That was just one account. There were others, and then there was the big one. The investment I'd made 15 years ago in a little software company started by 3 MIT kids who needed someone to believe in them when nobody else would. TechFlow Solutions. I owned 40% of my son-in-law's company, had for 3 years since they incorporated and needed serious capital. Bradley thought his anonymous angel investor was some Wall Street fund. He had no idea he'd been taking money from the man he was ashamed to call family. Emily wanted me to be quiet during the investor meetings, to not embarrass them. I was the investor, had been all along, and in 2 weeks, at Sophie's birthday party, I was about to find out just how far my daughter's embarrassment would go. Because if Emily couldn't respect the man who'd raised her, maybe it was time she met the businessman who'd been funding her lifestyle. The call came from building security at 2:47 p.m. on a Thursday. Mr. Wilson, this is Frank at TechFlow Solutions. I'm calling about your request to visit the 14th floor. I hadn't made any request. I was delivering lunch to Emily. Homemade chicken salad sandwiches like Sarah used to make for Sophie. Emily had mentioned she was working late, hadn't eaten. I'm sorry, what request? Your daughter, Emily Wilson Roberts, asked us to call you. She says you're not authorized to be in the building. I was standing in the lobby of Bradley's office building, holding a paper bag with sandwiches and Sophie's crayon drawing of our family. Through the phone, I could hear elevator music. Can you put Emily on the phone? She's in a meeting, sir, but she wanted me to explain that this is a secure building. We have protocols. 20 minutes later, Emily came down to the lobby. Her heels clicked against the marble floor like a countdown timer. Dad, what are you doing here? Bringing you lunch. You said you were working late. She glanced around the lobby. A few people in expensive suits were watching us. Her cheeks flushed pink. You can't just show up at my office. Why not? Because She lowered her voice. Because it's not professional, people will ask questions. What kind of questions? Questions I don't want to answer. I looked at my daughter, really looked at her. She was wearing a charcoal gray suit that probably cost more than most people's rent. Her hair was pulled back in a perfect bun. Her makeup was flawless. She looked like success, sounded like success. She also looked ashamed of the man who'd paid for the education that got her this job. What would you tell them if they asked? Dad, please don't make this harder than it has to be. Just answer the question, Emily. What would you tell them about me? She glanced at the security guard, who was pretending not to listen. I'd tell them you were someone who was leaving. Someone who was leaving. Not her father, not the man who'd worked double shifts to pay for her college. Someone who was leaving. Emily, I know what you are. Her voice was sharp now, cutting. And I know what this looks like. A man in work clothes showing up at a tech company with a paper bag lunch. I looked down at my clothes. Blue work shirt with Wilson's Auto Repair embroidered on the pocket. Clean jeans, steel-toed boots that had walked her down the aisle at her wedding. What does it look like? It looks like someone who doesn't belong here. The words hung in the air between us. Frank, the security guard, shifted uncomfortably. A woman in a power suit walked past, her heels echoing Emily's earlier footsteps. And where do I belong? Dad, that's not what I meant. Where do I belong, Emily? She couldn't answer, or wouldn't. I handed her the paper bag. Sophie drew us a picture. It's in there with the sandwiches. Emily took the bag without looking at it. Thank you. She drew you in your office, drew me in my garage, drew her in the middle, holding both our hands. Emily's grip tightened on the bag. She told me she wants to work with cars like Grandpa when she grows up. Says fixing things is important. Dad, but I guess fixing things isn't professional enough for this building. I turned to leave, then stopped. Oh, and Emily? Next time you want me to stay away from your office, just ask. Don't send security to explain why your father isn't welcome. I made it to the parking garage before my hands stopped shaking. But as I sat in my truck, I realized something had shifted. For the first time in 5 years, I wasn't hurt by Emily's rejection. I was angry. And anger, I was about to learn, was much more useful than hurt. That night, I called my attorney, Patricia Davis. We'd worked together for 15 years, ever since I'd started making serious investments. She managed my portfolio, handled my contracts, kept my business affairs private. Patricia, I need to ask you something. Of course, Phelan, what's on your mind? If I wanted to attend a board meeting for TechFlow Solutions, what would that process look like? There was a pause. Phelan, you are a board member, silent partner status, but you have full voting rights. You could call a meeting tomorrow if you wanted. And if I wanted to review the company's current financial status? You're entitled to that information. It's your investment. What about current funding requests, pending deals? Phelan, you're 40% owner. There's no business deal they can make without your approval. After I hung up, I sat in my kitchen looking at Sophie's drawing that Emily had left behind in the paper bag. 3 stick figures holding hands, me in my garage, Emily in her office, Sophie in the middle. Sophie had drawn hearts over all our heads, but Emily had only seen the embarrassment of a father in work clothes. She had no idea that the man she'd banned from her office building owned nearly half of everything inside it. That was about to change. The next morning, I did something I hadn't done in 15 years. I called in sick. Instead of opening Wilson's Auto Repair, I drove downtown to the offices of Davis & Associates. Patricia had been my attorney since 2009, back when my first tech investment paid off and I realized I needed someone who understood both money and privacy. Phelan, you look tired. Patricia's office was on the 20th floor of a building 3 blocks from Emily's, floor-to-ceiling windows, mahogany desk, diplomas from Harvard Law on the wall. She was 52, sharp as a knife, and one of the few people who knew exactly how much money I'd made over the years. I need to understand my options with TechFlow. She pulled out a thick file folder. I was wondering when you'd ask. Bradley's been sending increasingly desperate emails about their funding situation. He's been emailing you directly? He thinks I represent the Anonymous Investor Consortium. Has no idea it's just you. She opened the folder. They need $2 million in bridge financing by October 1st. Or they'll have to start laying off staff. What happens if they don't get it? Company folds. Your investment becomes worthless. I stared out the window at the Denver skyline. Somewhere down there, Emily was probably in another meeting, probably telling people her father was a consultant instead of a mechanic. What if I wanted to reveal my involvement? Patricia leaned back in her chair. That's your right. You've been remarkably patient, staying anonymous all these years. Most investors your size would want board meetings, quarterly reports, input on major decisions. I didn't want to complicate Emily's life. And how's that working out for you? I told her about the office incident, about Emily's embarrassment, about feeling like I was disappearing from my own family. Patricia listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Phelan, can I speak to you as a friend, not just your attorney? I nodded. You've been invisible for too long. You've let them create a version of you that serves their narrative, and now you're trapped in it. She pulled out another document, a bank statement I recognized. This account generates $89,000 a month in dividend income. Your real estate portfolio is worth $4.1 million. Your tech investments are valued at over $12 million. She spread the papers across her desk like a dealer showing cards. You're not just Emily's father who fixes cars. You're a successful businessman who chose to stay humble. There's a difference. Emily doesn't see the difference. Because you haven't shown her. Patricia walked to her window. There's something else you should know. Bradley's been reaching out to other potential investors. He's getting desperate. And one of them is Pinnacle Capital. They're known for hostile takeovers. If they invest, they'll want controlling interest. I felt something cold in my chest. Which means Bradley could lose his company entirely, and your investment along with it. I thought about Sophie's drawing, about Emily's dreams for her family's future, about the house I'd helped them buy, the school I'd helped them afford. What would you advise? Patricia smiled. It wasn't a particularly warm smile. I'd advise you to stop being a silent partner and start being a visible one. You've earned the right to be heard. She handed me a business card. Not hers, someone else's. This is Michael Torres. He's a financial journalist at the Denver Business Journal. Very discreet, very professional. If you ever wanted to tell your story, I pocketed the card without looking at it. Patricia, if I decided to attend Sophie's birthday party this weekend as Phelan Wilson the investor instead of Phelan Wilson the embarrassing father, what would that look like? Her smile got wider. It would look like a board meeting. As I drove home, I thought about the man Emily saw when she looked at me. Grease under the fingernails, work clothes. Someone who didn't belong in her shiny professional world. She had no idea she was looking at the man who'd built that world for her. But she was about to find out. Saturday, September 28th. Sophie's 5th birthday party at Cherry Hills Country Club. I arrived at 2 p.m. sharp, wearing my best suit and carrying a gift bag with the custom-made dollhouse I'd spent 3 weeks building in my garage. Sophie had seen it in a catalog and fallen in love with it. A perfect replica of their Highlands ranch house, complete with working lights and tiny furniture. The country club's main dining room was decorated with pink balloons and a Princess Sophie banner. 43 guests, mostly Bradley's family and Emily's new social circle. I counted them as I walked in. Sophie ran to me immediately. Grandpa Jimmy, you came! I scooped her up and for a moment everything felt normal. This was my granddaughter, my family, my people. Then I saw Emily's face. She was standing near the buffet table with Bradley's mother, Patricia Roberts, not to be confused with my attorney, Patricia Davis. Patricia Roberts was old Denver money, the kind of woman who measured people by their zip codes and club memberships. Emily excused herself and walked over to us. Dad, you made it. Her smile was tight, practiced, the same smile she'd worn at her wedding when she'd asked me to leave early. Wouldn't miss my granddaughter's birthday. Of course not. She glanced at my suit. You look nice. Nice. Like she was surprised I owned clothing without grease stains. Sophie was tugging on my sleeve. Grandpa, did you bring my present? Did you finish it? I did, sweetheart. Want to see? I set the gift bag on a nearby table and pulled out the dollhouse. Sophie's eyes went wide. It's our house. Look, Mommy. It's exactly like our house. Other children gathered around. Parents started murmuring appreciatively. It was beautiful work. I'd been building things with my hands for 37 years, and this was one of my best pieces. Did you make this yourself? Asked one of the mothers. I did. Took about 60 hours. That's incredible craftsmanship. Are you a carpenter? Before I could answer, Emily stepped in. My father is very handy. Very handy. Like I was a weekend hobbyist instead of a master craftsman. But I let it slide. This was Sophie's day. The party continued smoothly for an hour. I talked with other grandparents, helped serve cake, watched Sophie play with her friends. I was careful to stay in the background, not draw attention to myself. Then Bradley's father, Robert Roberts, approached me during the gift opening ceremony. "You must be Emily's father." Robert was 68, silver-haired, wearing a suit that cost more than most people's cars. He had the kind of confidence that came from never having to check a price tag. "Phelan Wilson, good to meet you." "Robert Roberts, I understand you work in the automotive industry." Emily's version of my biography. I glanced over at her, but she was busy helping Sophie with a particularly stubborn bow. "That's right." "What aspect? Sales? Management?" The conversation could have gone smoothly. I could have deflected, changed the subject, kept playing the role Emily had written for me. Instead, I told the truth. "I own an auto repair shop. Fix cars." Robert's expression shifted slightly. Not disgust exactly, but a subtle recalibration. Like he'd been talking to one type of person and suddenly realized he was talking to another. "I see. Well, honest work." Honest work. The phrase rich people used when they wanted to be polite about poor people. It is. Must be challenging in today's economy. All these computer-controlled vehicles. You adapt or you die. Robert nodded absently, already looking around the room for someone else to talk to. "Well, it was nice meeting you, Phelan." He walked away mid-conversation. Didn't even wait for a response. I stood there for a moment, watching him rejoin his circle of friends near the bar, watching them glance back at me and whisper. That's when I heard it. Emily was standing 10 feet away with Bradley's mother and 2 other women. Their voices were low, but not low enough. "He seems nice," one of the women was saying. "He is," Emily replied. "He just doesn't really fit in with our crowd." "What does he do?" Emily hesitated. I watched her face change, watched her make a decision. "He's between opportunities right now." Between opportunities. Like I was unemployed instead of owning a successful business. "Oh, that's hard," said Bradley's mother, "especially at his age." "It is, and honestly." Emily lowered her voice further, but I could still hear every word. "If you want to know the truth, sometimes I think life would be easier for everyone if he just disappeared." The room didn't stop. The party continued around me. Children laughed, adults chatted, servers refilled glasses, but for me, everything went quiet. My daughter, the woman I'd raised alone after her mother died, the woman whose education I'd funded, whose wedding I'd paid for, whose house I'd helped buy, had just told a room full of strangers that life would be easier if I disappeared. I looked at Sophie, who was playing with the dollhouse I'd spent 60 hours building for her, at the pink balloons I'd helped pay for, at the country club membership that my money had made possible. Then I looked at Emily, who was still talking to Bradley's mother, probably explaining how embarrassing it was to have a father who worked with his hands. I walked outside to the country club's terrace and called Patricia Davis. "Patricia, it's Phelan. I need you to come to Cherry Hills Country Club, now." "Phelan, what's wrong?" "Bring the TechFlow files, all of them." "Phelan, it's time for a board meeting." When I walked back into the dining room, Sophie ran up to me. "Grandpa, where did you go? I want to show you my other presents." I knelt down to her level. "Sweetheart, Grandpa has some business to take care of, but I'll see you very soon, okay? Promise?" "I promise." I kissed her forehead and stood up. Emily was watching from across the room, probably wondering why I looked so calm. She was about to find out that sometimes the quietest people make the loudest decisions. Patricia Davis arrived at 3:47 p.m. I watched her walk into the country club's main dining room carrying her signature leather briefcase, the one with the gold clasps that had closed more high-stakes deals than most Denver lawyers see in a lifetime. She was dressed like she always was for important business. Navy suit, pearl earrings, the kind of quiet authority that made million-dollar investors listen when she spoke. The party was winding down. Most of the children had moved outside to the playground, their parents following with coffee and cocktail refills. Emily was near the gift table, organizing Sophie's presents into neat piles. She looked up when Patricia entered, probably wondering who this professional woman was and why she was here. "Phelan?" Patricia approached me with the focused calm she brought to every business meeting. "I have the documents you requested." Emily's head turned at the sound of my name. Her expression was curious but not yet concerned. "Thank you for coming so quickly." Patricia set her briefcase on the nearest table, the same table where Sophie's dollhouse sat, surrounded by wrapping paper and birthday cards. "Should we find somewhere private to discuss this?" "No, here is fine." I raised my voice slightly, not shouting, just loud enough to carry across the room. "Ladies and gentlemen, could I have your attention for a moment?" Conversations stopped. Heads turned. Emily's face went pale. "Dad, what are you doing?" I ignored her and continued speaking to the room. "I apologize for interrupting Sophie's birthday celebration, but there's some business that needs to be addressed." Bradley appeared at Emily's side. His face was confused, embarrassed. "Phelan, maybe we should—" "Bradley, I'm glad you're here. This concerns you directly." Patricia opened her briefcase with 2 precise clicks. Inside were manila folders, legal documents, and bank statements, organized with the efficiency of someone who'd been managing complex investments for 20 years. "Patricia, would you please explain to everyone who you are?" "Certainly." Patricia's voice carried the same authority she used in boardrooms. "I'm Patricia Davis, senior partner at Davis & Associates. I've been Mr. Wilson's attorney and investment manager for 15 years. Emily's confusion was shifting to something that looked like panic. "Dad, what is this about?" "It's about honesty, Emily." I picked up the first document Patricia handed me, a corporate filing from the Colorado Secretary of State. "Bradley, you know your company, TechFlow Solutions, has been looking for bridge financing." "Yes, but I don't understand. $2 million to get through the next quarter." Bradley nodded slowly. The room was completely quiet now. Even the servers had stopped moving. "And you've been corresponding with an anonymous investor consortium about providing that funding." "That's right." I held up the document. "Patricia, would you please read the name of TechFlow Solutions' largest shareholder?" Patricia took the document, her voice clear and professional. "According to Colorado state filings, the largest individual shareholder of TechFlow Solutions with a 40% ownership stake is Phelan E. Wilson." The silence that followed was complete. Emily's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Bradley stared at the document like it was written in a foreign language. Robert Roberts, who had dismissed me an hour earlier as someone who did honest work, took a step forward. "I'm sorry, what did you say?" Patricia continued reading. "Mr. Wilson has been the company's primary investor since 2021, providing initial seed funding of $1.8 million and subsequent capital investments totaling $3.6 million. I watched Emily's face change as the numbers sank in. $3.6 million. More money than she'd probably imagined I'd seen in my lifetime. "That's impossible," Bradley said. "Our investor is a fund, Pinnacle Partners." "No," Patricia replied calmly. "Pinnacle Partners is the shell company Mr. Wilson established to maintain his privacy. He is your investor, Bradley. He always has been." Emily found her voice. "Dad, this isn't funny." "You're right. It's not funny at all." I took the second document from Patricia, a Bank of America statement dated 3 days earlier. "Patricia, would you please share Mr. Wilson's current liquid assets?" Mr. Wilson maintains several investment accounts. His primary account shows a current balance of $3.2 million. His real estate portfolio is valued at $4.1 million. His total investment portfolio, including his stake in TechFlow, is valued at approximately $12.4 million. The room was so quiet I could hear the grandfather clock in the lobby ticking. Bradley's mother, Patricia Roberts, was staring at me like I'd grown a second head. The woman who had patronized me, who had agreed that my presence made life easier for everyone if I just disappeared, was realizing she'd been talking to a millionaire. "I don't understand," Emily whispered. "It's simple. For the past 3 years, your husband has been taking investment money from the man you're embarrassed to call your father." I turned to address the room again. "Emily told some of you that I'm between opportunities. The truth is, I own Wilson's Auto Repair, 15 rental properties in Denver, and 40% of one of Colorado's fastest-growing tech companies." Bradley was shaking his head. "But you're a mechanic." "I am a mechanic. I'm also a businessman. I'm also Emily's father. I'm also the man who paid for her education, her wedding, and the down payment on your house." I looked directly at Emily. "I'm also the man whose daughter just told 40 people that life would be easier if he disappeared." Emily's cheeks flushed red. "Dad, I didn't mean—" "Yes, you did." Patricia handed me the third document, the one I'd been saving for last. "This is a withdrawal notice for TechFlow Solutions bridge funding. I signed it this morning." Bradley's face went white. "You can't do that." "I can, and I have. As of Monday morning, your company will need to find $2 million from someone else." I folded the document and put it in my jacket pocket. Patricia, thank you for coming. I think our business here is concluded. As Patricia packed her briefcase, I walked over to Sophie, who was still playing with her dollhouse, blissfully unaware that her birthday party had just become a business meeting. Happy birthday, sweetheart. Grandpa loves you very much. Then I walked out of the country club, leaving behind a room full of people who had spent the afternoon looking down on a man worth $12 million. Sometimes the best revenge is just telling the truth. Monday morning, 8:15 a.m. I was under the hood of a 2020 Honda Civic when my phone rang. Dad, please, we need to talk. Emily's voice was small, shaky, nothing like the confident professional who had been ashamed of me 3 days earlier. I'm working, Emily. Dad, you can't do this. Bradley's company is Bradley's company, not mine anymore. I continued working on the Honda while we talked. The customer needed it by noon, and a commitment is a commitment. But you'll lose your investment too. Maybe, maybe not. Dad, please, can we just meet? Talk this through? I wiped my hands on a shop rag and checked the time. I'm busy until 5. You know where to find me. At 5:23 p.m., Emily walked into Wilson's Auto Repair. She looked around the garage like she was seeing it for the first time. 3 work bays, hydraulic lifts, tool chests, organized with 37 years of precision. A business that employed 6 people and generated enough profit to fund the lifestyle she'd been living. I haven't been here in 3 years, she said quietly. I know. She sat on a folding chair near my desk. Dad, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. I'm always honest. That's been the problem. Did you really pull the funding? I showed her the paperwork. Withdrawal notice, dated and signed. Copy of the email sent to Bradley's business account. As of this morning, TechFlow Solutions has 72 days to find alternative financing. Emily stared at the documents. Why? Because respect isn't optional, Emily. I never disrespected you. I sat down across from her. On Saturday, you told 40 people that life would be easier if I disappeared. I didn't mean... You told them I was between opportunities instead of admitting I own a successful business. Dad, you banned me from your office building because you were ashamed of my work clothes. That's not... You made me park around the corner so your neighbors wouldn't see my truck. Emily was crying now. Not the manipulative tears she'd used to get wedding money, but real tears. Guilt and shame and fear. I was wrong. I know I was wrong. Yes, you were. But Dad, if Bradley's company fails, we lose everything. The house, Sophie's school, everything. I leaned back in my chair. Tell me about everything, Emily. What do you mean? You said you'd lose everything. Walk me retry P continue. You said you'd lose everything. Walk me through what everything means. Emily wiped her eyes with a tissue from the box on my desk. The house payment is $4,000 a month. Sophie's private school is $1,800. Bradley's car lease? My car lease, the country club membership? How much of that can you actually afford on your salaries? She was quiet for a long moment. Maybe half. So the other half comes from where? You. Her voice was barely a whisper. It's always come from you. I nodded. The house down payment, Sophie's playground set, your wedding, the Mercedes repairs, the emergency loans that never get paid back. Yes. And in return, I get to be embarrassed by my own daughter at family gatherings. Emily's tears were coming faster now. Dad, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Sorry isn't enough anymore, Emily. I stood up and walked to the filing cabinet where I kept personal documents, pulled out a folder I'd prepared that morning. This is a financial summary of everything I've given you and Bradley over the past 5 years. Patricia helped me compile it. Emily opened the folder. Her face went pale as she read the numbers. $1.2 million, I said. That's how much I've invested in your lifestyle. I didn't know it was that much, because you never asked. You just assumed the money would always be there. I sat back down. Here's what's going to happen, Emily. I'm withdrawing my investment from TechFlow. Bradley can find other investors if his business plan is as solid as he claims. But I'm also stopping all financial support for your household. No more emergency loans, no more car repairs, no more private school tuition. Emily's hands were shaking. Dad, we can't afford... Then you'll figure it out, like adults do. What about Sophie? What about her? She'll have to change schools. We might have to sell the house. I looked at my daughter. Really looked at her. Emily, do you think Sophie cares about private school? Do you think she cares about living in Highlands Ranch? It's what's best for her. According to who? You? Bradley's family? Emily couldn't answer. Sophie wants to spend time with her grandfather. She wants to help me fix cars. She wants to play with the dollhouse I built her. I leaned forward. She wants a family that's proud of each other. I am proud of you. No, you're not. You're ashamed of me. Have been for 5 years. Emily was sobbing now. How do I fix this? Tell me how to fix this. I handed her another document. This is a proposal, a way forward. She read it through her tears. What is this? New terms. If you want my financial support to continue, here's what needs to happen. You want me to work here? At the garage? 2 days a week, mornings. Learn the business side. Understand what it takes to build something from nothing. I don't know anything about cars. You'll learn, or you won't, and you'll find another way to pay your bills. Emily stared at the document. And if I say no, then you say no. Bradley finds other investors, you downsize your lifestyle, and we see if our relationship can survive without money holding it together. What about Sophie? Sophie will always be my granddaughter. That never changes. But her birthday parties might be at Chuck E. Cheese instead of country clubs. Emily folded the document carefully. Can I think about it? You have until Friday. She stood to leave, then stopped at the door. Dad, for what it's worth, I really am sorry. I know you are, Emily. But sorry doesn't rebuild trust. Actions do. After she left, I called Patricia Davis. How did it go? She asked. She'll take the deal. You sound certain. She doesn't have a choice. Bradley can't find $2 million in bridge funding in 72 days. Not in this market. And if she says no? I looked around my garage. 37 years of honest work. A business that would survive whether Emily respected it or not. Then I'll know where I stand. And so will she. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is stop being available to people who take you for granted. Emily would learn that lesson one way or another. By Wednesday morning, the consequences were already visible. I was replacing brake pads on a 2019 Subaru when Marcus, one of my mechanics, looked up from his work. Boss, you see this? He held up his phone, showing me a Denver Business Journal article dated that morning. Local tech startup seeks emergency funding after investor withdrawal. The article was brief but accurate. TechFlow Solutions had lost its primary investor. Bradley Roberts, CEO, was quoted saying they were exploring multiple funding options and remained confident in the company's future. But I could read between the lines. When a company loses 40% of its funding 3 months before a major product launch, confidence doesn't pay the bills. That's the company your son-in-law runs, right? Marcus asked. Former investment, I said. Business relationship terminated. Marcus raised an eyebrow but didn't ask questions. He'd worked for me 8 years, long enough to know I didn't discuss family business during work hours. At lunch, Patricia Davis called with an update. Phelan, I thought you should know. Bradley contacted me directly this morning. What did he want? To negotiate. He's offering to buy you out at market value. With what money? That's what I asked. Apparently his father is willing to liquidate some assets. I considered this while eating my sandwich in the garage's small office. Robert Roberts, the man who had dismissed me as someone who did honest work, was now scrambling to buy out the honest worker. What's market value? I asked. Conservative estimate, $4.2 million for your stake. And if TechFlow fails without the bridge funding, your stake becomes worthless. Then Bradley's gambling that I'll take the sure money rather than risk losing everything. Smart business strategy, Patricia agreed. What do you want me to tell him? I thought about Emily, probably sitting in her Highlands ranch house, calculating how many months they could survive without my financial support. Thought about Sophie, who wouldn't understand why Grandpa's money suddenly wasn't available for private school and country club memberships. Tell him I'll consider it. Phelan? Yeah? You're not actually considering it, are you? No, but I want him to sweat for a few days. Thursday evening, Emily called. Dad, I'll take the deal. Which deal? Working at the garage. Learning the business. I'll do it. Her voice was steady, but I could hear the cost of the decision. Emily had spent 5 years building an image of herself as someone who'd transcended her blue-collar roots. Working at her father's garage would shatter that image completely. What changed your mind? Bradley's father offered to buy you out. Robert thinks it's the smart play. Take the money and run. And you disagree? I think. She paused, choosing her words carefully. I think I've been looking at this wrong. You're not just my father who happens to have money. You're a businessman who happens to be my father. Meaning? Meaning if Robert Roberts wants to buy you out, it's because he thinks your investment is valuable. And if it's valuable, maybe walking away isn't the smart play. I smiled for the first time in days. Keep going. And I think I want to understand how you built this, how a mechanic becomes someone who can make $4 million investment decisions. It's not magic, Emily. I know. That's why I want to learn. Friday morning, Emily showed up at Wilson's Auto Repair at 8 a.m. sharp. She was wearing jeans and a simple blouse, the most casual I'd seen her dress in years. Her hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail instead of her usual professional styling. "Where do I start?" she asked. I handed her a clipboard with invoices from the previous week. "Accounts receivable. Match the work orders to the payments. Figure out which customers haven't paid yet." "That's it?" "That's business. Money in, money out, and everything in between." Emily spent 3 hours on those invoices. When she finished, she looked up with an expression I hadn't seen since she was 12 years old, helping me balance the garage's books on Saturday mornings. "Dad, Mrs. Henderson hasn't paid her bill from 6 weeks ago." "I know. But it's $400. Why haven't you called her?" "Because Mrs. Henderson is 83 years old, and her Social Security check doesn't come until the 15th of each month." Emily stared at the invoice. "So you just wait." "I run a business, not a charity, but I also remember that Mrs. Henderson brought you cookies when your mother was sick." My daughter looked around the garage with new eyes. At Marcus, who had a daughter Sophie's age. At Tom, who was working his way through community college. At the steady stream of customers who trusted us with their cars and their problems. "This isn't what I expected," she said quietly. "What did you expect?" "I don't know. Something smaller." Emily was beginning to understand the difference between wealth and worth, between having money and building something that mattered. It was a start. 6 weeks later, Sophie asked the question I'd been waiting for. "Grandpa, why doesn't Mommy live in the big house anymore?" We were in my garage on a Saturday morning. Emily was at the desk working through vendor invoices while Sophie helped me organize tools, the new routine we'd settled into. "Sometimes people move to houses that fit them better," I said. Emily and Bradley had sold the Highlands Ranch house in October, moved to a smaller place in Lakewood, 15 minutes from the garage. Sophie's new school was the public elementary 2 blocks from their rental house, the same district where Emily had gone to 3rd grade. "I like the new house," Sophie said. "It has a big backyard for my dollhouse." The dollhouse I'd built was now the centerpiece of Sophie's new room, no longer competing for space with $15,000 playground equipment and designer furniture. "Grandpa," Sophie continued, "Mommy said you taught her about money. Can you teach me too?" I glanced at Emily, who was pretending to focus on invoices but listening to every word. "What do you want to know?" "Where does money come from?" "Money comes from work, from making things people need or fixing things that are broken or helping people solve problems." "Like fixing cars?" "Like fixing cars." Sophie nodded seriously. "Can girls fix cars?" "Girls can do anything they want, sweetheart. Your mom is learning to run a business. That's harder than fixing cars." Emily looked up from the desk. "Dad, I have a question about the Martinez account." Over the past month and a half, Emily had surprised me. She'd learned the garage's computer system, organized our customer database, and started calling delinquent accounts with a diplomacy I'd never mastered. She'd also made mistakes, significant ones, ordering the wrong parts, scheduling conflicts, misreading work orders, but she'd learned from each mistake instead of making excuses. What about the Martinez account? They want to set up a payment plan for their transmission repair, $800 over 4 months. What do you think? They've been customers for 6 years, never missed a payment. I think we should do it. I nodded. Write it up. Emily had stopped asking permission for every decision 2 weeks ago, started trusting her own judgment, started thinking like someone who understood that business was about relationships, not just transactions. "Dad?" she said quietly while Sophie was distracted with sorting washers by size. "Yeah? Bradley got the new funding." I heard. Patricia had called me the previous week. Bradley had found investors through his father's connections, at a much higher interest rate and with less favorable terms than I'd offered, but enough to keep TechFlow operational. He asked me to ask you if you'd consider staying on as a silent partner. What did you tell him? I told him he'd have to ask you himself. I looked at my daughter, who was wearing jeans with actual grease stains from helping me with an oil change the day before. Her manicure was chipped. Her hair was pulled back with a rubber band instead of designer accessories. She looked more like herself than she had in 5 years. "And what would you recommend?" I asked. Emily considered the question seriously. "I'd recommend that you make whatever decision serves your interests, not Bradley's. And if that decision doesn't include tech flow, then it doesn't. You taught me that you can't build a relationship on one person's convenience." Sophie finished organizing the washers and climbed onto my lap. "Grandpa, are you and Mommy friends again?" I looked at Emily, who was watching us with an expression I couldn't quite read. "We're working on it, sweetheart." "Good. I like it when my family is together." As we cleaned up the garage that afternoon, Emily asked one more question. "Dad, do you forgive me?" "I forgive you. But more importantly, do you respect me?" She was quiet for a moment. "I respect what you built. I respect how you built it. And I respect that you gave me a chance to be part of it." That's all I ever wanted, Emily. Family isn't about money, but it is about respect. And respect, I'd learned, is something you can teach, if you're willing to stop accepting anything less. If you've made it this far, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever had to set boundaries with family? Let me know in the comments where you're watching from.